Andrew has been counting me in. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Andrew. Here we are. Ian Sands is with me, and just in case you're getting a kind of time warp situation, it's not May time, it's not yet Blues on the Bay, but all of that will come. It's the Bay on the streets maybe today, the Bay on the streets today, because Ian, in his main incarnation as a council official, is here to tell us about the flooding and the awfulness. I bet you're glad you're not a council official on the Thames Bank area or Surrey or whatever like that. They're having it very, very bad.
It's absolutely horrendous. There's no sign of that going away for a long, long time because there's nowhere to go.
Cameron's, in an act, an utterance of sheer banality, he said the other day, the water will come again and it will bounce onto the ground and run into the river because we're saturated. You know, thank you for the obvious, Mr. Cameron, and whatever. But it's now acknowledged that it's climate change. There's a British scientist last week said, for the first time officially, this is down to global warming. Yeah. And they're now accepting it. I
found it very interesting. They were talking 400 years ago, the Dutch had designed a lot of the irrigation systems over in England. And they've actually brought them back again to do it with all their super pumps and everything. Wow. So, unfortunately, the way climate is going, we may have to start to think like the Dutch.
Yeah. Because there's been no flooding in Holland. No. Or not, seemingly not.
Well, I think there was a catastrophic flood way back in the 50s. Yeah. And there was lots of people perished, and I think that was
they learned the lesson then.
Literally their watershed, pardon the pun, you know.
But what's it's going to be, for people in the southeast of England, southwest as well, no one will want to go and live there anymore. No. People will start, because the insurance companies are going to cry, can't do it, all of that's going to happen, you know.
Yeah, and they're talking about dredging and maintenance, and if this had been done on the other, well, if nothing else, they might as well now do it and see does it help. They have to try everything that they can try, you know. Yeah.
Ian, we did very well in Newry, because what might it have been like had we not done the Newry flood relief scheme? You know, the big walls through the river.
And absolutely.
Did that make a difference?
A big
really?
Difference. Yeah.
We can say that with confidence.
Yeah. Well, I suppose yourself being a very great advocate of Newry Canal.
Yes.
And part of the management system of the canal is that as it gets full, it flows in through spillovers into the river. So the canal's at a higher level, but in the situation we had at the beginning of January, the river then got the same height
as the canal.
That's how big the tidal surge or the the spring tides, the difference that it made. So you always have to, I suppose, accept the inevitable in that, you know, in a severe flood situation, if the rain keeps coming, you know, that you always have to be prepared just in case that the worst does happen. You know, but all the defences and all the maintenance that can be done is being done. You know.
Well, we've survived. I haven't seen Monaghan Street flooded. No. You know, the sandbags are there. Yeah. So we've been doing something right, big time.
Yeah. Well, you probably noticed over the last 10 years there's been quite a lot of work done. They've been digging big holes in the ground close to Monaghan Street, and they've installed these attenuation tanks.
And did you ever think in your days of growing up, Ian, that you'd ever hear yourself say the phrase attenuation tanks?
Yeah. The only one would have been on a Saturday night after the third person got out of the bathwater, and you had it. That was the closest.
Those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah. So there is different systems in place, but Newry, like lots of big towns and cities, were built around rivers because that was how commerce worked. And beside canals, that's how they moved their goods in and out. Yeah. So it's the same with Belfast, and there is parts outside of Newry which is reclaimed land. So there is flood defences that have to be maintained and watched and be very careful about.
But even that traditional wet spot in Newry, out the Belfast Road opposite the Ardmore police station, that's been dry.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, well, the sort of things that people have been looking at, and they're now available online, is these flood map plans, and there's maybe a 1 in 100 year prediction or a 1 in 200 year prediction. So at the beginning of January, we were looking at the 1 in 200 year flood mapping, which is like very extreme conditions. Yeah. But once in 200 years, they're saying that it's not impossible that it mightn't happen. Yeah. So again, it's down to good planning and management and maintenance.
I do hope that you and I will both live to experience the once in 200-year flood.
Yeah.
That will be it.
Yeah,
You have your Noah's Ark ready there for whatever.
That's it. Yeah. But we're not just faced by the Clanry, but also the effects of the tides.
The tides, of course, and the natural funnel driving it up between Cooley and the Mournes. Whacking the high tide up with the wind coming across the ocean from the east coast of England, right across the Irish Sea.
Yeah, and we've all seen, like, there's spectacular photographs on Facebook and so on of how high the tides were at the beginning of January and how close they got to Warren Point. And actually, if you go down to Cranfield, a lot of washing away of the actual ramps and the embankments and everything. There was big devastation there, and it's, you would have thought, relatively sheltered.
Well, on a practical level, we're not out of it yet, but good watching cuts the head of bad luck. What should people be doing in threatened areas?
Yeah, well, it's certainly always being prepared, and floods can come from the heavens, they can come up through the drains, they come from all sorts of places. So I think, for instance, if your property has ever flooded, it's taken as a warning sign that it could happen again. It can be affected by development and building and road making and all those sorts of things. So a lot of the natural drains then can get blocked, so it can happen. But certainly, making sure, like, if there's flood warnings and you feel at risk, if it's a 2-story building, try to get as many valuable things off the ground floor. I think certainly look at what's happening in England at the minute. It obviously happened to a lot of people very suddenly, and they hadn't time to do anything about it. Always have a plan B, knowing where to stay, where to go. We're very soon going to be introducing a new self-help leaflet, and this will be Household Emergency Life-Saving Pack.
Wow.
So
what's that about? Talk me through this. What is this about?
Well, this is basically saying to you, in the event of an emergency, whether it be flood or fire or whatever it may be, who's all your emergency contacts? Where would be the meeting point? Say your kids are at school.
Yeah.
And they find that when they come home, they can't come home because of flooding or whatever. So where's the alternative meeting point? Key contact numbers.
Yeah.
So there's a wee section to fill in where all those essential details on the second page on the table there, Rowan. Sorry.
The second one there. Yeah. If I had a brain, I'd be dangerous.
Yeah, and I've heard of people, when
the doctors there, the social care, work, school, vet, all of that's there.
Because many years ago, there was a scheme called ICE, which was in case of emergency, and they said everybody on your mobile phone, put in the name ICE and a key contact number, so God forbid you have an accident or whatever. So that would be sort of the first thing. And then if the power goes off, how would you cope? So making sure you know where you have your torches with spare batteries.
Yeah.
And then again, an emergency grab pack, such as maybe a couple of blankets in the absolute sense, as if you're waiting to get the call to go to hospital or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just the absolute senses for that. And even a battery or wind-up radio as well. Yeah. And then waiting for the updates. Yeah. Now, with the best will in the world, what we would hope to do with the council, which we do, is on our Facebook page and on the council web page, in the event of a major incident in around the Newry and Mourne area, what we'll do is we will keep introducing all the new updates, because we'll be getting it directly from the agencies. Yes. So you might have seen there recently, just before last weekend, the Coast Road at Rostrevor.
That's right, yeah.
The sea had decided to reclaim part of that. So again, as soon as the road closures were there, it was up. And also through our own councillors. So whoever your local councillors are, make sure you've liked or you're connected to them with Twitter and Facebook. Because
love a councillor. Love your councillor. Never more important than now.
Well, they are, sometimes they find out before everybody else. So our councillors are very important for getting information and passing information out as well.
McCreevy, that fellow, good fellow, Conor McCreevy, I'm sure others too, he was talking about the need to explore a greater length of the Rostrevor Road, that if it went in one piece, part it could go in another place. But I'm sure that's in the council scheme of things, normal day-to-day maintenance.
Well, that would be, the road service. So I would expect they would have engineers looking very closely at that now. Certainly at the last time of the flooding at the beginning of January, we all had different priorities. So theirs was to maintain the infrastructure, keep the roads open.
Yeah.
So most of their resources was there, but what they did was they gave us several thousand sandbags.
Yes.
Okay. And then we brought them to the sports centre in Bagnall's Castle.
And you were giving them out from
make them
there.
available. So
I had this feeling, you know, sandbags are great, and it's old technology, and it's great technology. But if I have a door front and a door back that's 4 feet wide and 7 feet high,
yeah.
surely it's not, would it be helpful to have an engineering facility where there would be a slot that you drop a waterproof baffle into, and the flood comes, that in association with sandbags, flood comes, the water cannot get into your house.
Yeah.
That seems a very obvious thing to do, Ian.
Yeah, and actually you could do it as a DIY job.
You could, of course.
Bit of timber and some expanded foam or something that you have sitting ready to go in.
And maybe that's something people should be looking at now.
Well, you'll notice in the news bulletins from England, you'll see these big blue gates in people's doorways, and you see the logo floodgate. So
oh, yes.
That's one of the several companies to do it. But again, a couple of big rolls of polythene.
Yeah.
First, and then sandbag it. So you're getting a double skin.
Yeah. I think it's good that people would think intelligently about it, because it's not enough to sit there and say, they've given me sandbags, I'll put the sandbags in. The thought process ought to be, I've got the sandbags, now what can I do to maximise the efficiency of the sandbag?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a mindset, isn't it?
And that, I suppose, initially we had lots of people got our sandbags then at the beginning of January. And then they were ringing to say, oh, can you come and take them away? And we were saying, take them into your back shed and keep them, because it's not even seasonal now.
No, it can come at
August was, for a while, there was being a high month for flooding. So to me, if you're at risk, keep your sandbags keep them dry and keep them covered.
Keep your sandbag and your counsellor close by.
And another wee tip is, if they start to bust, get a new empty bag and drop it into
the whole lot into it.
Now,
what's this? There's a load of numbers here.
Okay, this is on Newry District Council on our website. I've just printed this directly from it. If you go on there today and go onto the council website and then just look up the page link at the very bottom called Emergencies. And in there is all the helplines, not just for flooding, the Housing Executive. Let me see what else is in here. We have Crime Stoppers, we have Daisy Hill Hospital, Firmus Energy, Phoenix Gas. So there's loads of really, really great information here, as well as, of course, the flood line, which is the 0300 2100. And again, we would say to the public, certainly ring that number. That we as a council don't give out sandbags, but if the agencies ask us to help, what we'll do is we'll publish where they are available for collection. But outside of an emergency situation, we wouldn't. We don't provide
that. Have you any intelligence at all, Ian, on situations of really severe hardship in our area as a consequence of the inclement weather?
Well, I know there was individual households that were affected on the January one. I know at the old Warren Point Road, for instance, there was a couple of houses that were affected. We have a multi-agency flood resilience committee, which I would chair, and we would meet every several months. And in there we look at what we're calling flood hotspots. And you'll probably notice now there's a lot of work going on in Warren Point. And a lot of work going on in Restrever. So this is actually looking at the plumbing.
Oh, yes.
And looking at stormwater and ways of
the plumbing to take not domestic plumbing, the plumbing to take water away.
Yes, the drains. And it was the same here for Newry and Monaghan Street. So all the big flood areas, which would have been known years ago, bit by bit they're hopefully being nailed. Now they'll work up to a certain level, but if the heavens or the sea decides to go beyond that, but for the average sort of minor ones, then they should be hopefully able to cope with all of that. So there's big attenuation tanks and pumps going at Warren Point there at the first and last, you'll see. At St Jude's and Restrever, they're
low, aren't they? They're a wee bit low there. Stuff going in there.
Yeah, well, years ago there was never any houses in them sorts of places. And again, people then build houses from the road then to the sea. Is that affecting drainage and so on as well?
It's never easy.
No,
it's never easy. But you're on top of it. You fill me with confidence this morning.
Yes.
You're glowing with your information. You're great. And it's not even blues on the bay yet.
No.
But that's coming.
Yeah. But the other things we have to prepare for, and again we would sort of appeal to help the public here. Now, us as a council, we have only a small number of buildings in regard to leisure centres and so on. And of course, Newry Sports Centre, it's on low-lying ground as well.
Yeah.
So it may not be available somewhere that we need to evacuate to. So we'd sort of be appealing to anybody, you know, football clubs, church halls, anybody that has a big hall, that they'll be prepared to assist the community.
And people should tell you that now.
Yes, yes.
So you don't want it now, but you know, and you have a number to ring. Look, we have 20 families in trouble.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the month there, very kindly, in Dervla, Mulholland, they made available just an emergency, the Bosco, because it's up on the hill, it's a big premises.
Of course.
Hopefully we never have to call upon that, but that would be sort of one of the main rules of the council, would be to get the people shelter, to work along with the Health Trust and the Housing Executive to make sure they've got somewhere to go to initially. If need be, if we have to bed them down for the night, we can do that as well. But we don't have enough buildings to cope with all of Newry, you know, that's just how it is.
But hopefully not be all of Newry at the one time.
But as I say, if there is on the upper lands, the church halls, the GAA clubs, not there, very much appreciate
it's the spirit of Dunkirk, or the Irish equivalent.
Well, that's
you know,
it's helping your neighbour, and people are very resilient.
Yeah,
they definitely are. Like again, if you look to Cork at the minute, and you know, down in the west of Ireland, it's been devastated. But you know, it's things to plan ahead for. You have to say to yourself, well, this is where the bars you need to be hitting to be able to respond.
And you, by gum, are hitting them. Well done.
You're always going to be tested. It's never going to be
but I mean, sure, it's not supposed to be easy.
No.
If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Well, that's it.
You've evolved a strategy, and you're implementing it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I find is, you know, through our flood group, it's all direct one-to-one contacts. And there's that confidence of helping each other out, whereas in the old days it might have been, you know, everybody's in their silos, and that's that department's responsibility. And it used to be, whose water is it anyway, and so on. So that recognition is there, that we all get together and see what resources are available or who needs help. And then we work together, you know.
And doubtless, Ian, by the time July comes around, I'll be talking to you about the effects of drought. On the place.
I know.
Welcome to our Garden of Eden. This is who we are. This is what we are. And good luck with what's to come in May, the Blues on the Bay. We look forward to that as well. Well done.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much indeed. We're going to play you a little bit of, you would know Alison Krauss and Willie Nelson.
Yes.
We're going to play you that, and it's very, very beautiful. Andrew.